joy seekers, joy givers, you have found the place for an infusion of joy today. My name is Deb McGregor. This is our special summer series, Infusion of Joy. And with me today is our very special guest, Barb Stone. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Deb. It's so good to be here, but it's so important that I've gotten the chance to really talk to you and see you. It's just, I miss you.
I miss you too. Barb and I were in a program together, Produce You with Rick Tamlin, and we haven't seen each other for, my gosh, is it what, 6-8 months now or something?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I was like, I really miss Barb. So Barb, we're going to talk about leadership, organizations, what's happening in our world. You own Build Your Pathway. We're going to talk about that.
Build your path.
Okay. Well, I added the way. Make your way on the path. I mean, it's just.
I love it, Deb. I love it. It's a play on words, and it's like, so there's something there. Pathway,
It's kind of funny. I think you and I might have just come onto something, because literally my eyes read pathway. Isn't that funny?
I love it.
So, see, this is how we just create. It just comes up. Barb, let's talk a little bit about your background, because it's like, how did you even get into working with organizations and around the leadership work?
Wow. So it's like the pathway. I love it, Deb. I love it. So, I think that up until 3.5 years ago, I worked after I finished my MBA, I got into manufacturing, and I became a senior female leader in manufacturing, and I worked myself all the way up to being executive vice president, CFO. And somewhere along the line, and I loved what I did because it was about bringing things together. But one of the things I ended up recognizing about 3 years before I left my career was there was something else I needed to do. And I wasn't too sure, is this what it's all about? Climbing ladders, making money. And I'm going like, but there's more to putting out in the world. And I started on a self-discovery journey for myself. I started studying resiliency, positive psychology. And then I'm going, oh my gosh, but I can't bring this into the caustic manufacturing world. I need to bring something that's a little more tangible. So I started, became a John Maxwell team member, and I started dabbling into the more of leadership, things that were more tangible and teaching. But one of the things I really loved about the program was I was able to dabble into coaching. And I recognized that all through my career as a senior leader, I walked into so many different situations that I didn't know anything about, literally. But what I was able to do was I was able to lead and bring people together and bring the best out of people to find the best solutions. Mm-hmm. And so I started my coaches training in 2018, and I actually started working with a coach at the end of 2017, because I really truly believe we all need some type of coach, mentor in our life. And then I decided at the end of 2018, I was going to take this scary leap of creating this business. And I remember going to work on 12/31. I'm going like, I'm leaving. At the end of January, going, oh my gosh, what did I do? Because it was a transition. It was like a totally different mindset of who I was. I had to rediscover. And during 2019 is when I ended up doing my certification through the Coactive Coaches Training Institute, got my certification, but it took me a year to really undo who I was. And I tell new clients now, I said, this is a journey. It's a pathway to being able to get to find who you are. And it really took me a year. And then, Deb, I look back 3.5 years now that I've been doing this thing. And if I had said to my new birth self in this business, you would be doing this in 3.5 years, I would go, Are you crazy? But you know what? There wasn't just one pathway. It was a journey of hitting roadblocks, of hitting so many different things and thinking I was going to do this. And then, no, I'm going to do that. And oh my gosh, I can't try to do this because I'm going to fail, but I'll try that. So it's been, that's been my journey.
Yeah.
And I love doing what I'm doing. It is like in my heart. It is like being able to see people and organizations start coming together and coming life. And it's like all these aha moments. It takes my breath away. And I know that this is what I really should be doing.
Well, and I love that, because so many people are out there and they don't go for what they want to be doing. And I love that you're saying, like, this is what you're supposed to be doing, and you're doing it with full on permission.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, what is full on permission? Because you talk about that a lot. Like, we're going to give people full on permission to do this. What is a full on permission in the first place? And what does it look like to have full on permission leadership?
I think sometimes people don't know what that really means, the full-on permission. It is like, so I ended up having to say that there are, because of this journey and this pathway, you need to really be able to give yourself the open space to try things. And one of the things that I love, and I keep bringing this up in my positive psychology, I worked with some unbelievable people. Tal Ben-Shahar, who put positive psychology on the map in Harvard, and then Maria Serwa, who is this unbelievable clinical psychologist who really created this thing. And one of the things that Tal would say, permission to be human. Permission to be human. Permission to go into things and try them, and really recognize that, it's okay. There's a human on that other side. But then on the other side, Maria Serwa is saying permission to be magnificent. And it's like, so to me, that permission is to be human, make mistakes, do what you have to do, try things. And then the other side is, but go in there with the expectation that you are going to be magnificent in whatever you do. So, and unless you try it, I just had a client this morning, and she's been trying to put out this business, and it's like she's put together a beautiful business plan. Beautiful. I mean, got all the T's crossed, I's are dotted, but it's like, what's it like to give herself permission to step into this, step into it and make a mistake and try to see what's going to happen? Because permission to just be open, permission. And, one of the things about full permission, I think that's a great exercise. It's like, what do I need permission to do? It's like, just start a daily calendar that says I work with some clients, and I tell them I really want them to start thinking about creating new habits, and we'll do a 30-day challenge to get them going. But it's like, you know what? I love that, Deb, because it's like a 30-day challenge of giving myself permission to make a mistake, permission to be beautiful, permission to be open, permission to start leading this organization, permission to ask for help, permission. So I love that. Thank you for that.
What gets in the way of people giving themselves this full permission? I mean, I can make up a lot of things, but what do you notice in the work you do is getting in the way of this for people?
Oh, well, a lot of it is that self-doubt that, one of the things I do is I work with a women's business center here in Syracuse, the Wise Women's Business Center. And I work with young entrepreneurs who are trying, not young, old, it doesn't really matter, just people that want to put some good work in the world. And they can they know they want to do it, but it's also the business sense. They might not know, but it's like, so what happens is they start saying, well, I can't do that because I don't know that. And I can't do that because I don't know that. They start creating the roadblocks. And yes, there are roadblocks, but the reality is a lot of the roadblocks are ourselves created. And I just, this morning, this client, I was working with, on Katie Byron's exercise, the 4 questions. It's like asking them, is it true? Is it, is it true? And then asking again, is it really true? And the reality is, it's generally this saboteur, this thing that you got that says you can't do it, is really not true. And then, therefore, what is that believing in that not true creating for you? Now, what if you were to remove that? What opens up that space? And I have this shtick that looking good and getting it right creates performance anxiety. And that's really what it does, is like we have to have it right. We got to have it right. And the reality is, you're robbing yourself so much of the learning, of trying it. And so today, through this client is just, and she's like, oh my gosh, Barb, I ended up saying, let's look at what's possible. Every single day I was going to have her write something down, what's possible, but I love the permission too. And then I also was having her write I am statements, because who am I? I am brilliant. I am positive. I am talented. We don't see that. We see everything else. And the reality is, I was trying to share with her, I said, I get up every single morning thinking, oh my gosh, am I worthy to be able to share and really help my clients? And I know I am, but we always have that self-saboteur that prevents us from doing that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, and I wrote that down. Like, what is believing this actually bringing out? I mean, that's a powerful concept right there, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I also got curious when you were talking about we have to be right. It's like, yeah, so what are we making wrong to make that right in the first place, right? Because that becomes so polarizing in organizations and for people in their minds even, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like our mind wants to go to the wrong, but you haven't even tested it out to see if you were right.
Yeah.
And we stop ourselves. A lot of the individuals that I work with, they just start saying, I can't see the other side. So, as a coach, that's what I do, is to help them clear through the weeds. I just started working with a new executive director, and he's kind of new he moved up through the organization and got this job. And it's like, who is he now as this leader of this organization? But what was happening was he was like really doubting himself for everything. And what we're working on, and this is part of the CTI leadership model, is you need to be that leader of yourself. What are your values? What's your purpose? Why are you here? How are you tapping into who you are? What are your characteristics? And we're working now on doing some exercises to be able to kind of get him to feel confident so that he can be that visionary leader. He can be that partner with other people. He can be the supportive guide to his employees. And at the same time, he's aware of what is going on in the space. And it's just amazing.
Gosh.
Sometimes I want to pinch myself.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I kind of want to, this is amazing. It's fascinating work. What are some of I don't know if we want to call them trends or things you're observing right now in organizations that may or may not be different from, definitely pre-pandemic, but even to 10 years ago, just in the way people are functioning, behaving, because you and I were talking a little bit about that before we went live. And I think you have some really good insights on this.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I'm really noticing is that in the conversations that I'm having with different individuals as they are developing their careers and their pathway. I love that, Deb.
I knew we might have gotten onto something.
We certainly have. What's your pathway? I'm recognizing that, there has been this mass exodus, the big resignation thing. And what's happening is you've got a lot of individuals who have had a lot of experience and a lot of leadership, and they've kind of grown up through the ranks in their careers in their companies. And what's happening now is that they're exiting. And oh my gosh, here, people are rising to the top to being able to say, hey, I would like to lead. I would like to become that manager. And honestly, what it reminds me of is when I finished my MBA and I said, oh, okay, I've got an MBA now. I'm supposed to know it all. I knew nothing. I knew nothing. And luckily I went to work for a company that was going from a hierarchical structure to a team base. That's really where I got a lot of my platform in really learning how to lead. It's about bringing the people together in the team. So as I'm talking to individuals and I'm seeing things, and I'm working with one organization where they've had a lot of turnover. And what has needed to happen is, I got talking last week I was at a car meetup, and they're talking about people are being moved into positions and they're not really knowing how to lead. People don't want to be managed. They want to be included as part of the system and part of the solution. And so what's happening is we need to go back to some basics as to who you are as a leader. And it's not about just giving a directive. It's also about including them. It's about allowing them to be participative of the process. And one of the things of this one organization that I'm working with, and I've been working with them for 1.5 years, and I love it. And I go there and I've got a script that's going to I think it's going to be done in 3 hours, and it would take 5 hours with this team, because even though they've had a lot of turnover, they've had phenomenal engagement, and they want to learn, and they want to be hungry, and they want to be better. Tomorrow I've got to work with them, and we're going to start thinking about critical thinking, because we've forgotten what critical thinking is all about. And because their leader is now asking them to be more of leaders in what they're doing and moving the organization forward. So how do you think about that? What's that like? So we're going to be working on that. But and to have seen where they have come in the past 1.5 years, it's just been breathtaking, and that's what makes me tick. Makes me do what I want to do.
I love this. Well, and you and I were talking before we went live about like fixed mindset, growth mindset, finite, infinite, and that thinking impacts everything. So when you're working with these organizations, you are really helping them to get into this growth, into the infinite, right? Because otherwise, we are like task. We have completely missed the bigger picture. And how can we possibly lead people when we forget about the human right across from us?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I work with an individual outside of Boston, and she's been given a task of really creating a mentorship program within the organization. And I'm going like, I've been working with her for almost 2.5 years. I'm going to go like, oh my gosh, how are you going to do that on your client load? But we're working through this. But the thing about it is that recognizing that the people that are on her team, it's not a matter of just being told what to do. It's a matter of showing up and having them have the dialogue to be able to say, what is it really like for you to be a leader? And what is it like for you to step into this thing, and allowing them to make mistakes? And one exercise that I do when I teach some of the CTI model of leadership, and the first piece is a leader of yourself. And we'll go through values, we'll go through purpose. But one of the things that I try to get individuals to really take a look at, and I've done this with high schoolers all the way up to people in their 60s that are working at these organizations. And I want to tell you that after I've had this done, they've done this, they end up crying, because I ask them to think about the people that have really meant a lot to them, that they really admire, and what are the characteristics and why. And oh my gosh, because that's when you can mirror the characteristics in someone that has, and like on my website, I talk about my father who showed me how to work hard. He was Polish, off the ship, and he just school of hard knocks. My grandmother who taught me what love was all about. My first boss in manufacturing that taught me about the leadership, about bringing it all together. One of my bosses at a hospital, he taught me about talking to people and not seeing their bad all the time and seeing their good, and keep building those relationships. And then when I got involved in leadership, Greater Syracuse, there was a woman, Chucky Holstein, who really talked about community. And those are the things that I've brought into my life. And so it's so important for people to tap into those individuals that have been there for them, because they influence, and those are the ones you want to mirror. And that's what's going to make you a leader.
Oh my gosh, yes. I love it. I love it. I love it. So speaking of being a leader, one of the things I know you feel very strongly about is continuing to grow, build your education, build your training, build your resources. You are actually in the process of completing another another big milestone. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So one of the things, if you want to become a coach, you go to a coaching certification and going through a program that's ICF, International Coaches Federation certified. So I did my initial coaching through CTI, Coactive Coaching. But then I started, everybody says, oh, there's these other things here and there. And so during the pandemic, I started taking courses in ORSC, Organizational System Relationship Coaching. And I started these classes and I finished them at mid last year. And I'm going, like, the tools were so amazing about how to get a relationship or an organization or some type of a system, because we're all in systems. Our family is a system. Your work team is a system. Your work organization is a system. How to get them to better work together, talk together, to be able to move things forward. So I decided in January to start my certification program. And this was a little bit different because when I did CTI, I didn't have the full load, my coaching load. And now it's like I got a full load and doing this training. But it is so important because I've been able to utilize some of these tools with individuals in the teams that I'm working with, and it has opened up doors. I'm actually doing one of the things I've got to do tomorrow is I'm working with the staff on some team training development, but I'm also working with the board on how to move them forward to help the organization. And part of what has allowed me to do that are these tools, and they're just unbelievable because it brings some aha moments to the systems, the relationships, the teams, to be able to move forward. And one of the things that ARSC really talks a lot about is that we're not always right, and then we're not always wrong. So there's always something going on. And one of the things, and we've heard this from our illustrious Rick Tamlin, there's clarity in the conversation, and that's really what's happening in these systems, these tools. They allow the system, the relationship, to have a conversation, to move themselves forward.
Well, and let's talk about, conversations. Maybe that could even help us heal our world, because this is one of the things that's so missing from the humanity piece right now, right? So there's the organizational conversation, there's the world conversation, like conversations matter, right? Like, and clarity in conversations really matter. Like, there's just this big piece of this. So I know as a part of this, you are actually working with specific clients right now because you are putting in these hours towards this. Who are the kind of people you are seeking to be working with right now as a piece of that program?
So what I'm looking for is anyone or anything that's in a relationship. It can be a couple. It can be, I'm actually working, one of my clients is a doctor, and she's like, well, this is going on with my child. Could you work with us? So that creates a system. It could be a team at work that needs to be able to start thinking about working together, or it could be a CEO and their staff that needs to start thinking about how to be able to move the organization. Because one of the things that this system, these tools help, is to help the system. It's like there's a thing where this is where we're at, this is where we want to go. And what we do is we have an edge we need to go over. And we need someone to help us get over the edge, because we can be stubborn. That's human nature. And it's like, but how can you work together, and how can you hear, and how can you stand in somebody's shoes to really end up seeing their viewpoint, and being able to just be open to the change.
Yes.
If there is that full permission, if we give ourselves for permission to be able to explore, it goes back to the possibilities. And I think about it as I'm working with this client this morning, I just said, I want every single day, I want you to work on possibilities. What's possible?
Yeah.
So permission and possibilities. I got to write that down.
You got to write that down. It's P squared. Permissions and possibilities or something. I put your web link in the comments so people can reach out to you if something. I just have a feeling there's going to be somebody listening and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what we've been looking for. And it can be a win-win because you're in the process of getting the certification done. And this is what I love about this work that we do, is the right people find the right person in the right season.
Yes.
And that's another thing I love talking to people about, is that, sometimes somebody will work with one person for a year, 2 years, and then they realize, oh, I need this for this season. And it's okay to do that. So there may be somebody out there that is like, oh my gosh, Barb is exactly what we need right now. Like she's our person, Barb, the time has just flown by. I can't believe it. Like, we're almost out of time. And so are there any closing thoughts that you would want to share with the audience today, whether it's about the full permission, the possibilities, leadership, what's emerging for you in the moment?
I think, one of the things, I wished that I had a coach a long time ago. I didn't really understand what it was all about. And it's like, I have a coach, that's how Deb and I met. And believe it or not, our coach he's world renowned. He's traveled all over the world, teaches all over the world. But you know what? He has a coach too. We all need that support system. And it's not about It's again about that full permission of exploring, full permission of really looking ahead, full permission of saying, what is it that I want to make and how can I create it? And full permission to just have a conversation.
Yeah.
And because you don't know. And one of the things when people come to me, it is just a conversation of where you want to go, what do you want to do, what's preventing you, what's a plan, what's a vision, how to put this together. And the thing about it is, it's up to you. It's about you making that difference and really taking on the challenge of moving it forward.
Yes, it so is. Oh my gosh, this is so good. It's so good. I just like, oh. So Barb, thank you so much for joining us today. Like there's so much brilliance, the magnificence. It's emerging from you. It's just flowing right out of you today. And thank you so much for sharing your insights, your wisdom, your context, your content. I mean, it's all so good. Thank you so much.
Deb, thanks for doing what you do. This is
Thank you.
amazing because you're able to share that full joy. And that's what we really need. So thank you for being and doing what you do.
Thank you so much. And let's not wait 8 months to be talking again.
No,
That's just too long. So,
know.
and we want to thank all of you for choosing to watch today. Thanks for being a part of our Summer Infusion of Joy series. We'll be back again next week. You do not want to miss this one. We've got Carrie from Gathered. If you have not heard about Gathered, seriously, do not miss this. This is the woman who's got more couches and tables and chairs and puts them all together and does weddings and events and all this kind of stuff. And like, she's phenomenal. Do not miss this next week. So thanks again for being here, friends. And just reminding you to live, share, and lead with joy. Have a great day, everyone. This is Deb McGregor.